Welcome to my series on subtraction. In this 6-part series, we're going to cover what subtraction means, what it looks like, and how to make sense of figuring out how to subtract and how to relate that to the word difference. Because subtraction is really about finding the difference between two values, whether it's 10 minus 6 or 250 minus 73 or 4015 minus 2649. I will cover numerous strategies on how to find the difference between two values in this series. It'll be all whole numbers. I have a whole different series on fractions and fraction sense making, which you might benefit from. In this first stage of subtraction, where kids are learning to find the difference between two values, a lot of times you'll use like a 10 grid because we live in a base 10 society, and skip counting and thinking about groups of 10 is a highly purposeful way to think about numbers. Like if I have 10 minus 6, and notice I'm using the word minus, right? And that's just a synonym for subtraction. So, or it could also literally mean, it could mean take away, which is how young kids begin to think about subtraction, is removing out of a group. So if I take away 6, then what we're left with is the solution or the answer, and it's 4. And hopefully, as soon as you begin thinking about subtraction, relate it back to what they already know about addition, because they should think about the fact that 6 plus 4 is 10, and how these two equations are part of the same fact family. Now, in a problem like 20 minus 4, your child should understand that 20 is a much relatively larger number than 4. And so here I have two groups of 10. And again, that's purposeful because kids should be able to start seeing groups of 10. So 10 plus 10 is 20. Now, if I'm only taking away 4, and my child should even recognize that there's 5 4 times. So when you remove only 4, that's just a small fraction or a small bit of 20. And a 5-year-old might start counting the answer as everything left over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting by ones. But as soon as you can, get them to think, well, wait a minute, this is already 10. No, it's untouched. So 10 is part of the remaining amount. And then this is 5, so it's like 10 plus 5 is 15 plus 1 more, and that gives me my answer of 16. So some people will call this idea chunking numbers. And chunking numbers together in groups of like 5, 10, 2, 4, whatever, is really helpful in generating this number sense that is so important going forward. For this last example, we have 20 minus 12. And remember, I have 20 in two groups of 10. So your goal in these first lessons is to get your child to recognize that something like 12 is greater than 10. So instead of just counting out 12 individual ones as part of the subtraction, they might hopefully get the idea that this entire block of 10 is part of 12. So they're taking away 10 plus 2 more. And then the leftover is 8, and remember, it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or your child could count by ones. But either way, the best way to think about getting 8 is to recognize that this entire group of 10 goes away first, and then 2 more. So they're not just counting by ones. That's your first step, is to get them to go beyond just counting on their fingers and their toes to count 1, 2, 3, 4. It's also never too early to bring up the idea of fact families. Even as you're doing these elementary problems, talk about how if you took 12 that you removed, put them back, and then tacked on the 8 that are still here, that brings you back to the original 20. And so talk early and often about fact families. Now, stay tuned for part 2 coming up, when I talk about slightly bigger subtraction problems and I start showing other ways to think about the difference or subtraction. Thanks.